Violet Lawrence emailed Attitude and told us about the 5 strokes she's had. The last one left her with constant pain and paralysis in her arm and leg.
But she was off to attempt the New York Marathon. Would we like to tell others about her journey? You bet we would.
These are the tough streets of New York, but the slim woman with the beaming smile is more than up to the challenge. She's midway through one of the world's most celebrated races. Violet Lawrence is just hours from completing a personal journey, one that began 15 years ago when she had a stroke, a severe one.
I was waiting for the kettle to boil to make us all a cup of tea and coffee. And while preparation was going on, next minute I felt this sharp, severe pain triggered up the side of my head. And the pain was just so excruciating. I started to slur. Next minute my husband, who was sitting next to me, he was watching television. Next minute he turned around and he saw me. I think at that time it was just sheer panic. Lifted my head upright and I slumped to the other side. And he looked at me and he said, "Looks as though you're having a stroke. Why are you having a stroke?" So mad panic, he got out of the chair and he rang 111.
And the ambulance service, of course, was great. They knew exactly what was going on. Got her on oxygen right away.
But little did husband James Lawrence know that he'd be repeating that emergency scene again and again. Violet has now had 5 stroke events. In the early years, the couple didn't understand that a stroke can trigger severe mood swings. James was constantly on the receiving end.
She was like frustrated and angry to the point, and that's just on a daily basis, like getting out of bed, just being sort of in a foul mood all the time.
The last stroke, 3 years ago, cost Violet the full use of her left leg and shoulder, and it almost ended their marriage. Violet was dealing with ongoing pain and depression, but James was also having to make enormous adjustments.
Well, you realize you're waking up with a stranger, you know. She looks the same in many ways, but her whole demeanor had changed. And actually, her facial expressions had changed. So you're going, you know, like, what's this?
And after the stroke, all of a sudden, the severe mood swings. And it became quite critical. So bad that James, he didn't want to be around me.
Their story is a familiar one to the Stroke Foundation.
It is devastating. A lot of marriages break up. A lot of families have their life totally changed. And that's why people like Violet are so important, actually, because she's the epitome of what one has to do. If one has a stroke, you have to get out and about, do things, be active, push the limit the whole time.
But this is where Violet's limits will be put to the test. New York. The 51-year-old turned to exercise to help manage the pain and depression after finding that drugs didn't work for her. She then set a dream goal of completing the 42-kilometre marathon. But it also became a fairy tale with the couple, rebuilding their 20-year marriage.
The way we were before is not the way we are now. And it's been a process of relearning each other. But I'd say we're very solid and very good friends. So we go over the bridge. I'm going to follow you on these checkpoints. I have no intention of running the race myself. I'm an interested onlooker. But I'm real happy to see her doing it. She's been very, very dedicated. Carol's been a wonderful partner for her.
James is referring to the other key person in Violet's recovery, training partner Carol Norris. They met through Achilles, an organisation that supports disabled athletes in the Big Apple's big race. The pair have become very early risers, clocking up more than 80 Ks a week along the North Shore's scenic walkways. It's a regime Carol herself had never contemplated until she met Violet.
I had a friend who was involved with Achilles last year. My friend rang me and said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "You're mad." She said, "Oh look, she's 51, said 5 straight, you just have to walk it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, I guess I can walk for 7 hours. You know, I can shop for 7 hours. I can walk for 7 hours. New York, great shopping city, you know." And then I was committed, and there was no turning back. So
we have wonderful camaraderie. We like each other too, which is really neat. And she's a wonderful friend. A total stranger that's come into my life. A dear, dear, dear friend.
Right now, the dear friend is at her wit's end because Carol and Violet had managed to lose each other during the confusion at the start line.
What happened?
I went off to the bathroom while we were in our corral and she wasn't back by the time the corral moved, so we waited and waited and waited.
See you at the next stop.
Oh, that beast's too behind.
She went to the bathroom and never came back for us, and I spent the last 2 miles
running after me.
You made it. Good on you. Keep going.
Violet was determined to get to New York. The journey required patience, dedication, and a lot of those early starts.
I believe that all survivors, all stroke survivors, no matter how incapacitated and disabled they are, if you can find something in their heart that gives them a little edge, a little push, to take it one step at a time. That's what I've done.
Not too many steps ahead, Violet, Carol and the team are reunited and lapping up the New York atmosphere. This race was never about breaking records, but in fact there's been a few personal bests ticked off. And that's what really counts. So was this the end of Violet's story? Not likely. Her mission now, to encourage and motivate others.